Welcome back to Ox Tools. I'm Tom. So I gotta apologize, I guess, for teasing you guys about all this lapping stuff. So I've been posting some pictures on Instagram and torturing you guys a little bit with lapping pictures and teasers. So anyway, hey, we're gonna get started with our lapping plates. We've got some cast iron plates here. We've got some aluminum plates. And we'll explain all this stuff so everybody can kind of follow along. So we're going to use the classic three-plate method to generate flat planes on all these, and then we'll try our laps out on a little test specimen and see how we do. So we're going to start with these cast iron guys, and we'll get going on those, and then we'll move on to the copper laps. Okay, so here's a little closer view of these guys here. So actually, let's talk about the cast iron ones first here. So this is this ductile iron from McMaster Carr. Those are our favorite little stickers, and they sell what they call short discs. So you can get these, I think, 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch thick. They call these 1 inch thick. They're actually quite a bit more. They're almost 1.25 inches. So the first step in creating these laps is we're gonna face these surfaces. Now we don't have to be real fussy about it because we're gonna put the accuracy in later. Okay, so all we need to do is get a full cleanup, and we'll do both sides so that they're reasonably parallel. We're only going to have one side per lap in this situation, although you may want to, if you're going to make your own, you may want to do two sides so you end up with more surfaces to work with. But we're just going to do 3 for these couple of videos that we're going to do here. Okay, so we're going to go over to the lathe. We'll face these off. We're going to put a little chamfer on it, and then we're going to actually groove these. We're going to groove these with a series of grooves like this, which aids in the lapping process. Okay, so that's the cast iron jobs, and then the copper laps. Okay, now you know, I kind of cheated, and for mine that I made for myself, I used some solid copper that I had and grooved those. But you know, if you have to buy 3 chunks of copper and you need 3 that are this size, that's kind of expensive. So we're going to try this method and see how it compares to solid copper. The telescope guys use this and with great results. So I'm confident that we're going to get the kind of effect that we want with these. So okay. All right. So we're doing double duty here. We're using our backing plates that we made a while back that have turned out to be extremely handy for this kind of junk. Allows me to project this disc out a little bit. All right. Now, you know, we're just going to face this, so we just need it roughly centered. Actually, it'll be centered pretty reasonably because I want to put a chamfer on it. I don't want the chamfer to look icky. So tap those up against it. See, you can hear it when it's up against us, which is great. So all right, so let's indicate that, and then we'll do a facing cut, and then we'll flip it around. This has got a pretty scroungy surface on it. Make sure they're all tight. I think that may be about as good as I can expect out of this stuff. All right, that'll work. What we're doing here, yeah, it's like it's extruded material. So, all right, let's make sure we're against our tops nice. Pick out a tool here. Yeah, let's try that one. Let's see how that one behaves. Something with a flat top here. Okay, so we got these faced up, and we just need a smooth finish. And keep in mind too that you probably don't even need to turn these in the lathe and face them. If you have a lathe, great, it makes it a lot easier. But theoretically, you could take two raw discs and just rub them together and scrape and file until you got a reasonable amount of bearing between them, okay, and then lap them together. So that's one of the neat things about lapping is you can do this very, very precision process with very few tools, with the simplest equipment, literally. That's one of the things that appeals to me about it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to cut grooves. We want to checkerboard this thing, okay, or serrate the plate. These perform a couple of tasks. So we're going to make cuts, parallel cuts in one direction, and then we're going to make parallel cuts in another direction, okay? And then these little squares here are going to end up about 1/2 inch, okay? 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, so 13 millimeters by 13 millimeters roughly. So these are 150 millimeter diameter for our metric folks out there. So it's just a standard size stock. It's not an important number per se. I didn't turn the OD or do anything fancy there. So, so what these grooves do is when you're lapping, right? You have, when we're wet lapping, I should say, we have a slurry on here, and it's a mixture of abrasives and lubricants and carriers, right? We're sliding this piece around. Well, it forms a little bow wave, okay? And that bow wave is detrimental to your edges, okay? So you have to be very careful about this film thickness, right? Well, this helps break up that film thickness, okay, and keep it more uniform. And it gives a place for the material that's being cut away. It gives a place for the material to go. So in use, they actually become a little reservoir. So as you're sliding, it's pushing it in on one side and sucking it out, pulling it up out of the grooves on the other, right? Or your random movement, I should say. So the plates actually cut a lot faster when they have serrations. For super fancy stuff, you use smooth plates, but for the purposes of this series of videos, we're just going to talk about serrated plates. Okay, so let's talk about how to serrate these plates. All right, so we're going to set up for grooving this, and I'm going to try something a little different than what I did before. I'm going to clean this plate here, and this is just a lens cleaning cloth and with no silicone in it, basically an alcohol wipe. So it's a wipe with a little alcohol on it, and it works great. So what I'm going to attempt here is, let's see, let's get squared away here. So the idea is I'm going to bond this plate on with some Loctite 380 here, and like this, and then this will allow me to slide this along in a parallel fashion. And then when I want to rotate it 90 degrees, I rotate it 90 degrees, and I have a right angle here. So that's the theory. So let's try to do this and not bozo it here. So, oops, the trick here is always, how much glue do I put on, right? You know, you can use this for fixturing stuff. It's kind of nice that way, and then usually you can knock it loose without too much trouble. So when you, all right, oop. If you squeeze the tube too much, it's almost like it's got a drain. All right. Get it together. Put that like that. Okay, and let's get a clamp on it there. All right, so that's pretty good there. Get a clamp on it there. And a clamp on it there. All right, let's let that sit for a little while. And we'll see if it's on there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's nice and flat. So, well, you'll see in a few minutes. We'll let that set up and then we'll go from there. So we're going to cut these grooves on the marble saw once that Loctite cement hardens up a little bit. But some folks, you know, probably don't have a marble saw, so what's another way that you could actually make these cuts in there? Well, they're not particularly fussy, other than your own personal need for symmetry there, okay? You could use a carbide tipped circular saw blade too, and they're actually a nice width. These are pretty thin. This is actually would make a thinner slot than what the marble saw does. This is about 70 thousandths, something like that, 1.5 millimeters or so. And so you can set a very, very shallow depth and make a fixture with a fence on it and just do a series of cuts with the correct spacing, then rotate it 90 degrees and rinse and repeat. So that might be a good way to, I haven't tried that, but that would certainly cut cast iron, no doubt of that. You could even, if you were hardcore, set up a fence, something like this with a little gap in it like so, and literally you could use those as a guide for a good coarse hacksaw blade. And what you need is a groove that's a 1/16 deep, something like that, a millimeter or maybe a little more deep, and then spaced apart, and then at 90 degrees. So now that would be pretty hardcore. That would take a little while to do that, but the circular saw would probably be pretty fast. So. Well, you got me thinking about it, so instead of just talking out of my ear, let's just try this and see how well it works, and so that we know that it's a viable technique. So I get this thing set for a pretty shallow depth of cut. Now I'm not going to bother to set. Oh boy, that's not going to slide real good. Oh, you know what I can do? Huh, I know what I can do. Let's make it really cool here. What if I'm going to go on the smoother side. One side's milled here, so what if I do something silly like make it flush with the vice job, and then I get a Insta-fence here. Just don't cut your. Oh yeah, that's much better. All right. Well, let me get some hearing protection on, and we'll give it a go. Okay. Well, woodchuck tools are not just for woodchucks. So I didn't have a guide on there, so that it was waggling a little bit, but that's a pretty good groove actually. Now you got me curious here. What if I put a good some good guidance on there? you know, a good fence on the side or trap this sled a little bit. Well, anyway, I think it's a viable technique for cutting slots. You just got to keep the blade from waggling around. Let's take a closer look at that. Yeah, you see it kind of walked out the side a little bit. That was me probably turning a little bit, but the groove looks pretty good there, and one side's good. Huh, interesting. Well, you know what? Now I want to try it again. So let me rig it up again. All right. So this is certainly less sketchy here. Sketchoid. Took me a while. I had to turn down some rod stock to make some nails. Just kidding. Let's give it a try here. I don't know. Oh yeah, okay, it looks like I got some depth of cut. So this is kind of trapped now. I can't wiggle around as much. And let's see what we can do. Something's wedging here. Just got to push harder, huh? Yeah, you know, I think the blade's vibrating actually is what's going on here. So I don't have a good clean cut here. The blade's, it's too thin. Yeah, it's kind of thin. So, well, without experimenting much more, maybe you can cut through some plywood at the same time that you cut into that, and it'll stabilize the blade. So you make sacrificial cuts through a piece of plywood or something like that. So it's possible that this would work. You can do it on a vertical bandsaw too. It'll take you a little while. Like I said, you can do it with a hacksaw and a guide if you're really you're really having fun, or you can just end mill it too. So you can do it that way if you have a milling machine. But this probably bears a little bit more testing to, that first cut was actually not too bad. The second cut is shallower, but it looked like, well, you know what? Let's just, god dang it, just go in deeper, dopey. Let's just do that. Let's see what happens here. That's too much. I don't want to cut it in half. Hello. Okay, so that's kind of zero there. Is there some marks on this thing somewhere? Okay. Let's do that. Okay. And then I think this thing's getting wedged a little bit. Okay. I think we're ready now. All right, let's try it again. Yeah, it's funny because the rear part of the blade looks like it's the one that's fluttering, so I don't know, this might work. Interesting. Well, I'm pretty sure this will work, and I just want to prove it to myself. So what I'm going to do now is the cast iron's below this, so I'm going to cut through the wood, and that hopefully will act as a guide, and I'll make just a straight cut, and then we'll take a look at it and see how it looks. So let's go. Of course, my battery's dying now. You can't win, huh? You can't frickin' win. All right, let's see here. Well, pretty sure I cut it. get it out of there. Yeah, there you go. Whew! I knew it would work. So with the plywood helping to control the blade flutter, I got a really nice cut now. So if you're gonna try this, I would say that you want some, in fact, I would just glue it on there, temporarily, a sacrificial disc that you cut through at the same time. Then you'll get a really nice clean cut like that. So, okay, so now I can move on to something else because I proved it to myself that I can do better than that. That's my spacer block. I just gently come up against this magnet here. And that's my 1/2 inch. Pull that out. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, okay, it looks okay. And then I got an indicator over here, so I got a good carriage stop. It's kind of stopped cutting. Take a look at it. Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay. All right, so then I'll just, do I want to do, yeah, I'm just going to push this up again, like so. If it drifts a little bit, I'm not too worried about it. Okay. I think that last one is a mistake. It's too close to the edge, but these look good. Okay, so keep going. All right, that's the last one. Look at that. Pretty good. Came out nice. Now, let's see if we can get this off. Okay. I gotta clean that junk off of there. But there she blows. There's one. Got 2 more to do, and then we can have some fun. So I was actually, I'll bring you in close so you can see this. I made an extra cut at the end, and there's just no flat surface left, so it was kind of a boo-boo there, but I'll show you a little closer. So this last spacing here, see there, I just ended up with this kind of crappy little edge there that will probably just break off. In fact, I'll probably just file it off since there's no flat there. So this is okay here. You know, I suppose I could change the spacing a little bit so you ended up with one there, but it's not really going to matter. So looks good though. This magnet and spacer thing worked out pretty good. Okay, so we got our plates nicely grooved here. Now we want to identify them so we can keep track of them. So we're just going to put an A, B, and a C on these, and we're just going to stamp those little puppies. So let's put it in the middle, I guess. It's not exactly, okay, let me just give it another swat. That's better. Move that back a little bit. And then we're also going to put some paint marks on it at 90-degree increments around. That way we can, when we're lapping them, we can rotate them and have a reference point so that we're consistent. Okay? All right, so let me mark the rest of these and we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to make a just kind of a retainer disc. That's pretty good. That's our number. So this just keeps it from moving around when we're lapping. So when we push on it, we don't go crazy. All right, let's cut that out. Okay, we've got our 3 cast iron flat lapping plates kind of ready to go. They're faced, they're grooved, and they're deburred. Now you don't want to deburr the grooves. You just want to flatten them off with a file, and that's all I did was just kind of go over them with a file just to take any fuzz or any up stickers off. And we've marked them. And then we've marked quadrants on them every 90 degrees. So we're pretty much ready to start lapping these together using the 3-plate method, A on B, B on A, etc., etc., to get these going. So that's this is a good stopping point. So the next discussion is about the different kinds of abrasives that we're going to use to bring these plates in and also bring these plates in too. So we'll prepare these. Actually, we're going to do these first and then we'll do these because it's really the same method, but this is different materials. So, okay. So next discussion is abrasives. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.